One of the most exciting parts of my job is that I get to travel to vineyards all around the world. And if I really did that part of the job full time, I'd be on the road traveling around 365 days a year. So as much as I'd love to get out to vineyards all year long, that's not always the case. So it's really nice living in New York City when a winemaker comes to me. And we have today the winemaker from Cuvaison Winery and Brandlin Estate, Steve Rogstad.
Hi.
Hi,
Welcome.
Steve. Welcome to New York.
Thank you.
How is the Hudson Hotel?
It's fabulous.
And the rooms are huge, right?
Compared to some other places I've stayed in New York, yeah, actually not bad.
So, Steve, let's just jump into it. You are a guy from South Dakota.
North Dakota.
North Dakota.
It's a big difference.
Big difference. Okay. What is the difference between North Dakota and South Dakota?
North and South.
Okay. Well, I don't think of wine when I think of North Dakota and South Dakota, even though every state in the union has at least one commercial winery.
Yeah.
So my question is, I know how I got bitten by the wine bug. How did you get bitten by the wine bug?
Well, it wasn't in North Dakota, you're right. I don't think I ever had a glass of wine growing up in North Dakota. But I had an opportunity after college to go live in Paris. And I was living in a small apartment that was above a wine shop. And I kind of got fascinated with, at that time, with the wine culture in Paris. People had wine at lunch. They had wine at dinner. Not so much anymore, but certainly back then they had wine at lunch. And so, of course, I was curious and had a few glasses of wine myself. And I would stop in at the wine shop, and it wasn't a very prestigious wine shop, but they had wines from all over France. And I had a chance to attend a couple of different salons that are held in Paris where winemakers from around the country would come, and they could actually not only show their wines for people to taste, but you could actually purchase wines and bring them back home, which is different than how wine shows work in America. But at that wine show, then I was able to meet a lot of different wine growers, and it was just stuck in my head that this is what I wanted to do.
And so after that experience in Paris, you knew you wanted to be a winemaker? Is that the part of the world you wanted to get into?
Yeah, and now that when I look back on it, I'm like, why a winemaker? Why not a sommelier or anything in wine? But for some reason, I wanted to make it. Maybe it's my roots growing up as a farmer's son, I don't know. But that's what I decided to do.
What's the best part of your job?
The best part of my job?
The most satisfying part of your job?
Well, I think ultimately the most satisfying is when we bottle the wines, because then we've completed a journey with that particular wine. But every season has something, really different and really fun. But I think maybe the most satisfying part is when my brothers, who both work in cities, come and visit me, and they come into my little office in the winery and look out at the vineyards. They don't believe I'm working. And sometimes I don't believe I am either.
A day in the life of a winemaker can be so glamorous. Steve, you love the bottling because it's a finished product. What's the part you don't like so much?
Well, actually the bottling. Because you're a slave to very finicky machines built in Italy. But most all of the process is very fun. I mean, obviously harvest is long hours and can be stressful. You're making a lot of decisions that are going to set that wine on its course for forever. And you have to be mindful of that, and it's a lot of work, but it's also a very exciting time. We bring in foreign interns, so we have a lot of energy beyond our own people that work there to kind of help get us through harvest, and that's a lot of fun. The quiet time is really the winter time when we work on the blends, and that's a really fun time as well, because we really get to know the wines intimately at that point, I think, and it's a good fun time. And then summer's very busy because we're trying to get the wines in a bottle and get prepared for the next vintage. So every part has its...
Okay, a few questions so we can get to know you more before we get into the tasting. Okay, here we go. So when you're not drinking your own wine, what wine do you go for?
I love wines from all around the world. I probably drink more Pinot Noir than anything. It's a variety I've always loved. I've always loved to work with it, and it's endlessly fascinating, and it has great expressions in a lot of different parts of the world. Lately, I've been drinking a lot of Italian wines, which it's not a region of the world I really knew about very well. but I've done a few trips there, and I've gotten interested in the wines from Piedmont,
So
particularly.
Piedmont. Well, it's interesting because I make the comparison of Nebbiolo in Piemonte, like Pinot Noir in your part of the world, in Carneros or in Burgundy. If you were to be able to show your wine and have someone taste your wine, someone dead or alive, who would that person be?
Wow, that's a good question. Dead or alive? Well, one of the people that I never worked for, but I always felt was kind of a mentor in my life because I took so much advice from him was Didier Dagenot. And of course, he passed away a few years ago.
Didier Dagenot in the Loire Valley.
Yes, in the Loire Valley. And I think he did have an opportunity to try my wines, but never really sat down with him and got to share that experience.
When you're not working, how are you playing?
How am I playing? I ride motorcycles and bicycles, and I spend a lot of time in the hills around Napa Valley doing both. So.
Sounds nice. Well, when we come back with Steve, we are going to be tasting through some of his selections from Cuvaison and Brandlin. So stick with us. Thanks.